No, I just focused on the breath, that breathing meditation,
Okay.
and my only focus was just focusing on the breath. So I did not put pressure as such that because initially I did that mistake. To be really honest,
Yeah.
I did that mistake that when I started on meditation, that okay, I'm meditating now. So should sleep come as natural a byproduct of that? But initially I took that mistake and I put too much pressure, but
Still.
then I realized that that is not going to work. And I just focused those few minutes only on meditation. And then when I didn't put any pressure was when I started seeing results.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are watching or listening. This is the Holistic Monitor, and I'm your host, Nic Scogna. The Holistic Monitor is a wellness podcast featuring life energy research, health and wellness transformation, self-improvement and empowerment, philosophy, spirituality, and now guest interviews as well. We look forward to your comments on our YouTube channel at Holistic Monitor, and you can also listen on the go with us at Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more. And with that, let's get today's show started. Manohar Grandhi, you are what would appear in your bio to be the normal, everyday person. You have a life. You live in India. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you work in tech. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But you ended up having an issue where uh, you got afflicted with the inability to sleep
Mhm.
and found a way out and wrote a book about it.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so first tell me, like, what was your schedule like that you were working with prior to the help that you found?
Okay. My schedules were not that bad, like to be really honest. But the problem I faced, like you mentioned in the introduction, that I was working in the software industry. I was going on through personal issues and also combined with some professional issues, but not in respect to the schedule being like overstretched and that kind, but professional issues wherein some kind of a dissatisfaction with my job or something like that. So that was some of the things, and of course, personal issues I had with my family and all those things. So that actually coupled with I always had this problems right from teenage where I was a very light sleeper kind of a person.
Mm-hmm.
So that so it I could say like it was a snowballing, like one issue into the other, one issue into the other, and then it went into this bad state.
Right. So it was really like a combination of many factors, um,
Yes.
personal, work, all kind of going together, working against your ability to have a deep sleep at night.
Correct. That's totally correct.
Now, were you having issues where you were having trouble going to sleep, or was this you'd fall asleep for just enough to refresh yourself, and then you'd wake up, and it would be only be like an hour and a half or 2 hours later? What was your sleep cycle like that was causing the main issues for you?
So I had both problems. Initially, to start off, I had more of an issue going to sleep. So it was like my family, like everyone used to go to sleep, and I used to just stare on the bed, stare, and just keep waiting for me to sleep. But I never knew
Mm.
like when I slept or that kind. But
Mm.
so it was like if after these periods continued for long days, I also had few days wherein I just slept in a jiffy, but then after like 2 3 hours kind of a time frame, then I woke up, uh, not oblivious to the fact that whether I slept or not. I was always doubtful kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
that also was the issue. Yeah. So it was both, but I would say more of the struggle to go to sleep was the bigger one than waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Now, were you allocating enough time to sleep? Like you had a full 8 hours you were supposed to sleep. You'd lay there, not even sure, and then maybe doze off, but only doze off, never going into deeper sleeps.
Yeah,
And 8 hours later, you spent the whole night, just felt like you were laying there with nodding
yeah,
off or really light, like the really light, like alert sleep.
yeah,
And that was all you were
yeah. So
getting, which isn't really
yeah,
restful.
yeah, so it wasn't really restful because like you said, like you mentioned, I was just laying there waiting to sleep, and it was like I used to check the time every 15 minutes kind of thing, thinking that whether I have slept or not. So I used to think that okay, if I the time is more than half an hour, I felt that maybe I slept. If not, I was thinking that I haven't slept, kind of a thing. Yeah, and it was very the morning was a very dull kind of a thing because I didn't have the proper rest. So my mind was completely running over the things. Like the problem was I was trying hard to sleep. The harder I tried to sleep, the difficult it became.
Right. And that's the trap that happens because then there comes the
Yes.
distress at 3 and 4 hours in of just not being able to sleep, not actually falling asleep. 3 to 4 hours in, it's like, well, I'm not going to get any sleep. This is going to be a really hard day tomorrow. I
Mhm.
really need to go to sleep, and that struggle that doesn't
Yes.
help. I've
Yes.
I've been in
Absolutely.
those shoes where it's an hour or 2 hours from the time I'm going to wake up, and I know I've just not I've laid there most of the night, not actually having turned off. And
Correct.
even that last 1 or 2 hours, I may blink out and get some sleep, but that's like great. This is my whole day on an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep, which is just not
Yes.
good. I did a
Yes.
lot of
Absolutely.
traveling, and I
Mhm.
engineered a lot of straight through travel, which meant point A to point B as fast as possible. So I'd want as little sleep as possible,
Yeah.
but still want to be fresh and not crash oriented. So I'd take a snooze, and I would conk out because I'd be tired, but I'd only let
Yes.
myself sleep for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I'd go
Okay.
for not nearly as long. I'd go for 12 hours or something like that, and then that's not typical.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
then I would take another nap. I think I had driven one time and it was 60 hours, and I had broken it up with many naps, many,
Mhm.
many, but
Yeah.
they were all very short. So I think I got some sleep, but it was spread out because I had engineered my nap time so that I was getting some pretty good mileage in, but then I was taking these little micro naps and getting more mileage in. Um, but I've also had something very similar to then it happens at random times where I need to go to sleep, and I know I need to go to sleep, and of course that's when I can't sleep.
Yes. Yeah.
I know I'm going to be tired, and then the next day I'll be going through like the you know getting a new wind, feeling like I've got okay I'm a little bit more awake right now, and then I'll kind of burn out, and then I get another wind just to get through the day. It
Yeah.
becomes a real struggle, and I've had that
Absolutely.
last several days before I am able to put down and go to sleep. Where
Absolutely.
you so you said you were doing multiple days in a row. That's not
Mhm.
healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So
what you knew there was a problem, so you were
yes,
looking for some solution.
of course.
What did you find?
So like you rightly said, I clearly knew that there was a problem, and just like every other person, I just wanted an instant solution. So I wanted some kind of sleeping pill. To be really honest, that was my initial intention. So I just was searching the internet to find a doctor who could give me a sleeping pill. But then what happened was I searched and I got a suggestion of a psychologist. So psychologist is a person who works on the mental health with a talk, and he explains kind of the way you're thinking what is wrong with the way you think, how the pressure you put, and all those kinds of things. So that was the thing which happened. So I searched and I found a psychologist, and then he helped me understand what is the thought process, the wrong with the way I was doing, which is like putting too much pressure on sleep. And of course, like I told, there was some other issues also. Like I always was living on FOMO, well, that is the fear of missing out on
Mm.
things, and I
Yeah.
was dissatisfied. So those were the few things which really helped. But then, like I told, I was very desperate. So he then asked me to consult a psychiatrist who gave me, who diagnosed that I was on anxiety, and he gave me anti-anxiety pills.
Mm.
And I took anti-anxiety pills, but then before even working with the psychiatrist, I had initially started on the practice of meditation.
Mm.
So it was like I started with breath meditation. And of course, I kept hopping on from one form of meditation, so breath meditation to chanting meditation to heartfulness meditation. I kept hopping on from one to the other. But then the psychologist with whom I was working, he clearly told me one thing: like I should be focusing all my effort in meditation. It could be any form of meditation. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be one specific form of meditation. So I just chose the breath meditation because it was the easiest for me to start with. And
Yeah.
then I just did it like I used to listen to guided meditations for just like 2 minutes, 3 minutes kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just do that. And then in a day, do it once. I started initially, did it, and then did it twice a day. So just 3 minutes kind of meditation, just sneaked out those 3 minutes from somewhere and then just did them. And then from 3 minutes, I increased it to 5 minutes. And slowly I increased it to like a 20-minute meditation before going to bed,
Mm.
which I just rigorously followed without even taking a day off kind of thing. But it was kind of a relaxing thing. Initially, it didn't feel relaxing, but
Mm-hmm.
it was because I was very desperate. But then slowly, when I did this practice regularly and I persisted with this practice, what happened was my anxiety levels started going down, and the vicious circle of anxiety with insomnia, the vicious circle was broken. And once that cycle was broken, I started seeing that I was able to sleep better. But it was not a one-way street kind of from point A to point B. It took its own course of time, and then my schedule started getting better.
Mm. So you had zoomed in on a particular a focus for the meditation goal,
Mhm.
and then meditated on the desire for sleep. Is that what that
No, I
looks
just
like?
No, I just focused on the breath, that breathing meditation,
Okay.
and my only focus was just focusing on the breath. So I did not put pressure as such that because initially I did that mistake. To be really honest,
Yeah.
I did that mistake that when I started on meditation, that okay, I'm meditating now. So
Mm-hmm.
should sleep come as natural a byproduct of that? But initially I took that mistake and I put too much pressure, but
Okay.
then I realized that that is not going to work. And I just focused those few minutes only on meditation. And then when I didn't put any pressure was when I started seeing results.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so you can do a lot of work with meditation, but then it turns into a different type of work, and that's if you're trying to get away from the point of focus, which might be causing the disruption. So you were practicing more like a form of like true meditation, where you're allowing things to leave the mind to
Yes.
become vacant versus maintaining a focus and a point of intent.
Yeah.
And it's probably because the intent, the anxiety factor was there. So
Mhm.
you are already having an issue with thinking too much
Of
pre
course.
going to sleep, the FOMO,
Yes.
and just maybe sounds or things you had to do the next day, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
Now, India is like the seat of, or the birthplace potentially of meditation. There's a lot of
Yeah.
different forms of meditation in India.
Mhm. Yes.
You quickly went over many. And I think that a lot of people in the world don't understand that meditation takes many forms. That
Mhm.
simply saying meditation is really a blanket for um, sitting with yourself, but that there's many ways to do that for different goals that you
Mhm.
might have for devotion or for self realization,
Yes.
or for getting answers, that sort of thing, or for peace of mind, or just the. You had mentioned many. What was the one that you specifically found was the best outcome for you?
So I started with breath meditation, then I went to chanting meditation, and also there's another form of meditation called heartfulness meditation, where
Heartfulness.
you focus, yeah, where you focus on your heart being the center, and you focus all your the focus comes to the heart. Yeah, that initially I got some good vibes of doing it, but I spent more of time with the breath meditation only. So, which
Yeah.
is the most frequently used meditation, which most of the, of course, like you said, there are so many forms of meditation. In fact, there's a branch called mindfulness, which takes from this thing itself. So you could also have your focus on your steps that you're walking, and
Yeah.
yeah, preferably without any technology. If you do it, it helps a lot. To start off, you can definitely have technology, because we live in a generation where there's too much of technology. But
Mm-hmm.
if you can do these things without technology, that helps. Is what I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there's apps that have guided meditation, apps that have sounds in the background to try and blur out the sounds in real life.
Mhm.
I've always held that being able to meditate in a crowded space is or should be a goal. Being able
Yes,
to step into the void of yourself, so to speak, in
absolutely.
within a very busy area with lots of noise
Yes.
and clamor going on and things happening is a really good practice to work towards, because it shows discipline and willpower, without actually a lot of effort. I mean, this is it's just the effort of doing the work of meditation and working
Yes.
in, But for your practice, then did you utilize all three, um, heart uh, heart awareness, heart
Uh,
centered meditation, chanting, and breath
No,
work meditation?
I just used the breath meditation. So
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't so when I went to my psychologist, he just told me that not to complicate things. He just
Mm-hmm.
told me just stick to one form, but consistency is more important, is what he told. And I just followed just one form of meditation, and I was consistent with the form of meditation, and that uh, gave me a result, is what I would say.
Right. And now a lot of people, when they're going to sleep, they start having a movie play in their head.
Yeah.
Sometimes for me, that I will start the movie because I know that it helps me go to sleep, helps me
Mhm.
to start dreaming. And for others, it's just them processing their day, and maybe that's what keeps them awake. But turning it into a movie or a play helps me out a lot. But where I start to
Okay.
just allow it to play out, lay out to become this act within my mind. In your meditation, are you working towards going to sleep directly after the meditation or within the meditation? Or are you doing a meditation within a block of time prior to sleep and then going to sleep?
Yeah, that is what I used to do, which is like reserve. So let's say that I go to sleep at 10:30. So I used to reserve 20 minutes before that for
Mm.
meditation, spend that 20-minute block, and then after that, slowly go to sleep. That was what I used to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, of course, now you let yourself drift off after or during the meditation itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you meditate when you wake up?
Uh, No, not much,
Okay.
because my issue was more of sleeping only. I used
Yeah.
to just meditate before going to sleep only,
Right.
not much of that. But like you initially mentioned, if I had this thought, when if I woke up in the middle of the night, what I used to just simply do is, without any technology, of course, just focus on the breath and just keep telling myself that I'm relaxed and I'm giving my body the rest it needs and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was affirming myself the thing that I'm relaxed and I'm giving my body the rest it needs, that is when you do these things, our brain understands that there's no danger. So basically the problem is when most of the people, the way they do it wrong is, if in fact I was also doing it, like you also mentioned that I just have 2 hours of sleep and I need to fix it, I need to fight the problem, I need to fight the problem. So if you say this thing to your brain,
Mm-hmm.
then your brain is in an overdrive mode trying to solve a problem which doesn't even
Right.
exist. And for the problem that doesn't even exist, it really can't find a solution, and it goes in an overdrive mode and it messes the complete system.
Right. It overheats.
Yes,
Overheats trying to finish the task like a good computer would.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, what other? So now that you have found a technique that has allowed you to get sleep, you've written a book about it.
Yes.
Are there practical tips in the book to help other people to find this same method?
Yeah, so of course, I have also mentioned some other tips also. One which also helped me a lot, Nick, is the I used to do a form of drawing kind of. It's called Zentangle
Hmm.
or mandala art. So
Yeah.
I used to just sit with my daughter and I used to just color, just out of nothing to achieve. So just used to do these simple things. And of course, like one other recommendation which I mentioned in the book is having an early dinner.
Mm.
Generally, what I used to do is I used to have my dinners very late. It was like 8:39 time frame kind of thing. So the problem with that is when you have your dinner very late in the night, our digestion is one of the most energy consuming process,
Hmm.
and that actually interferes with your sleep. So if you have your dinners like little bit early, like 6:37 time frame, then you give your digestion system the time to digest your food. That actually helps. And the other pitfall, which from my personal life, is I used to spend my time like 8:39. I used to spend my time watching news on
Mm.
debate shows on television. So
Hmm.
that actually definitely doesn't at all help, because your mind is again, instead of relaxing, it goes in an overdrive mode. So I completely stopped that, and that actually helped me a lot. So that is something which I also talk in the book.
Basically, shutting things off,
Yes.
deactivate the mind, deactivate the uh, consuming part of your body, the food intake. I think a lot of people want that midnight, quote unquote, midnight snack, that like snack before bed.
Mhm.
And there's also a weight thing that happens with that as well, because the body digests but doesn't digest as well as it would if there was activity happening.
Of
Um,
course.
you have a whole day, you have a whole sleep parameter to go through, 8 hours of basically inaction after eating. I mean, eating typically is done to fuel, to go, and to move,
Yes.
to give you activity basically, and then you don't act, you don't do anything for 8 hours or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
So the food, I can see that would be a great thing to curb. It's just to cut the food out. Very difficult for a lot of people because they get very snacky. They want a
Yeah.
little bit here of just a little bite, but I think it would be like you said, dinner itself, a very heavy meal. Pushing that later and later is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Having that early, if you need a mid evening snack, I think that's probably good. But stay away from the time period when you're going to be going to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the topic of the midnight snack, Nick, the only suggestion which I can give is try to have snack which is in a raw form of vegetable like a
Yeah.
carrot or
Carrots. Yeah.
something that helps, because that can be easily digested by the food. But if you go for something like any kind of ice creams or those kinds of
Right.
things, they are actually processed food, and like you said, the body doesn't digest it that perfectly well, and
Yeah.
you end up into this problem.
Yeah. A lot of things can come from it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. And in your, it's so mainly you practice your meditation still. Is this something you still do?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So one other thing which I have been doing recently, I mean lately, since the start of the year, is the practice of gratitude.
Mm,
That actually helps because so what I have really observed and I have studied is end when you end the day with a practice of gratitude, which is being thankful for the little things in your life, then your brain doesn't have to solve a problem. So,
right.
so there's a part of our brain called as amygdala, which gets activated to do this part of the fight or flight or freeze thing.
Right.
So when you end the day with a practice of gratitude, then you're telling your brain that there's no danger and you're thankful. So it is some like when you say your brain, like you talked about shutting down. So this is also one thing which really helps, is what I feel.
Yeah. Kind of. I'd mentioned it on a different show. I believe that's already out, and I'm hearing a lot of being grateful as a great method. There's a practice that is done within a lot of Christianity where you pray before you go to sleep. As a
Okay.
kid, I did a lot of that and praying for goodwill and things of that nature. I think that's kind of transferred in my head into the act of being grateful and
Yeah.
the act of positive thinking for others as well as
Yeah.
yourself.
Of
But it's
course.
like a form of sorting business too. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
these things happened, but here's the positive attribute that I have to be thankful for in my life, even though today all these terrible things happened. Because the mind does that. One of the
Yes.
things that helped me out a lot when I was trying to learn how can I get myself to sleep, I observed myself and what it was thinking prior to going to sleep and why it just wasn't not just it wasn't knocking off, it wasn't going to sleep. And it was
Hmm.
replaying the day. It was going through all the things that had happened. And of course the
Hmm.
tendrils of that, what things happened that day, how they related to the really distant past or recent past, what that means for the future, the fears of the future.
Okay. Yeah.
I found that if I sorted that out prior to falling asleep, I gave my mind a little break. I did have
Yeah.
to do the sorting conscious, but it helped me kind of go to sleep a little faster. Kind of a form of, I don't know, it really was like mind sorting,
Yeah.
laying
Yes.
the stage that like I'd review my whole day, all the impactful things, kind of get it out of the way so I could get to sleep and I could get to dreaming about stuff that was more important.
Yeah.
Um, Now, are you finding that your dreams are more you're having them because you're sleeping better? Are you
Hmm.
finding that your dreams are more vivid
Hmm.
now?
To be really honest, I haven't ventured in that area
Okay.
where about the dreams and all those things. But yeah, so I can definitely say that I feel a lot pleasant. So previously it used to be like very terrified feeling whenever I wake up, but definitely much pleasant is what I would say.
Yeah. So do you remember your dreams at all, or no, not so much?
Uh, Not so much, to
Okay.
be honest.
Yeah. It's all good. All good. They're in there.
Yeah, yeah,
It's happening, right?
yeah.
And as far as your book goes, is it widely available? Is it everywhere like Amazon and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so my book is available on Amazon both as an ebook and as a paperback. In fact, I have also created a audio version of that, which is there on Barnes and Nobles and Kobo, those kinds
Yeah.
of things, but yet to come on Amazon. What do they call? Amazon audio version, Audible. It's in process, so Amazon Audible is taking some time, but
Yeah.
maybe in a couple of months, it should be on Audible also.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. There's a little delay from our recording to the time that the show is released. So it'll
Okay.
be a little closer to the time frame of when the book is ready to be launched, which is great.
Okay.
And you do have a website built
Yeah.
for the book for yourself as well. It's under your name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's under my name. Yes.
Yeah. So yourname.com basically.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
That's good.
Manohar Grandhi, right? There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Manohar Grandhi.
I like to
Yes.
practice, practice saying names that are outside of the norm for me to be saying. I don't say a lot of
Yeah.
names
That's
in
good.
general, but I have a difficult
Yeah.
name as well. So,
That's really good. Yeah.
yeah. As far as in the book, could you say basically what kind of, what people can expect as far as chapters and the layout?
Yeah. So my book is very short. It's a kind of a 1 hour read, which talks about. I talk about the book in two, four parts kind of thing, which is like how I planted the seed of insomnia, how I nurtured it, and how it messed up my life, and how I reprogram my mind. So I talk about, so initial parts are about how I messed up, how I planted the seed and all those things. And the later half of the book is about how I did this practice. Initially, I started with desperation. But then after desperation, when I did this thing with persistence, how it helped. And I also talk with the neuroplasticity angle also, which is like you create your own new neural pathway. So when you talk in the brain, so the brain has something called as neural pathways. So for example, right now I'm talking and you're hearing. So
Right.
when you're hearing and I'm talking also, there are some neural pathways which are there, which are doing all the filtering, and I'm talking, it's doing all those things. So when you are habituated, so for example, when you walk, the same neural pathway gets activated every time. So,
Right.
but then when you do a different kind of walk, let's say you start hopping, there's a new neural pathway. So for that, I talk in terms of neural pathway also, which is like when you meditate and you relax yourself, a new neural pathway gets created, which is the new normal right now. And the more you dissociate with your old habit, that neural pathway gets completely shut down. And that is the exact concept of neuroplasticity. And the beauty is our brains is completely neuroplastic till our lifetime. So initially, it was thought that our neuroplasticity is there for only certain like 15, 16 time frame. But
Yeah.
then after that, our brain is rigid. But then in the latest things, if you read about the growth mindset or all these things, it's all about neuroplasticity. The brain can adapt itself and change itself. So that is what I talk about in that book.
Yeah. Okay. So really a scientific approach to the organization of the mind and what's happening in the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. And are there other books on the horizon?
So as of now, I've started helping people who are having this issue, because I noticed that there are so many people having this issue, but uh, they resort only to medication. So which
Yeah.
is a kind of a short-term fix kind of thing. But then, I'm promoting this book little bit, and also I'm helping people overcome this. So that is the path I'm taking right now.
Yeah. That's what's basically consuming your time. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it is a big issue. It's
yeah,
more and more. We would like to just blanket blame technology for
mhm,
the issues of lack of sleep, but there's a lot of factors, like you said, the family, the background history of trauma,
yeah,
fear of the future or fear of missing out as
yeah,
well, social. There's just so many factors that go into how we sleep and how well we sleep or how well we don't sleep.
absolutely.
And it's such a powerful thing. The sleep is the time when we really rejuvenate and we get our energy reserves built back up like a battery charging. It's really important for us to have a um, as full of a
Relax.
night of sleep as possible.
Yes,
Are you finding that your day then is much more productive and you're more alert?
yes. Yeah, so definitely compared to the time where I had those issues, and definitely finding my day much more productive where I can concentrate, I can focus on learning things and learning things. So that is one of the core aspect which I would definitely say.
You're able to learn better. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a test, and I can't. I get to the point where they're asking me questions about what was read, and I can't come up with anything.
Yeah.
That's me tired.
Yes.
So I just
Yes.
can't remember. Right? What did I read? I don't know. You can't ask me questions about it. I read it, but it doesn't mean that I retained it or retained it really well. Yeah. So a
Yes.
lot sharper mind, basically. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
more focused.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you are, so you're working with people as well to kind of help them along with this issues that they
Yes.
may have.
Yes.
We're getting good results.
Yes, yes, Nick, I'm getting results. And yeah, so the like you mentioned, many times what happens is the stories in our head that we keep to ourselves, that makes a lot of difference. And the more the story stays in our head, the more pressure it adds. So I make that part where I make them create a safe space so that they can share their stories.
Mm,
And once they share their stories and it comes out, then they feel a lot of relaxed.
right.
That's what I feel.
There's less pressure, pressure
Yes.
of identity, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that these things of me that you don't know, and then once you get rid of that, then it's like, okay, you can relax.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
And are there anything else you can share for people to help them in the process?
yeah. So a few things which I have learned is the way we breathe makes a lot of difference. So one thing which I would recommend is the practice called as box breathing, which it
Mm,
goes something like this, where you inhale for 4 seconds to the count of four, then hold for the count of four, and then exhale for the count of four, and then hold for the count of four. This is actually called as box breathing. That helps in reducing your anxiety levels. And the other thing which I recommend is called alternate nostril breathing, where you
mm.
use your thumbs like this. Okay, then you close your left nostril and inhale with your right nostril, and then close your right nostril and exhale with your left nostril. This is actually called as energy balancing. So
Yeah.
what you're exactly doing is our brain, our body is completely divided into two hemisphere called the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. When you do this very simple technique called the alternate nostril breathing, you balance out the energy discrepancy is what I recommend.
Yeah, yeah. I think really when I was really young, I saw we had a book that was called Hatha Yoga, I believe, and it had a
Yeah.
lot of practices of I believe it had the different breath practices. There's a lot of different
Mhm.
ways of
Yes, yes.
counting at
Yeah,
different. The box one's really good. That's one I'd like to
yeah.
do. The alternate breathing nostril method also. You really notice that there is an outcome that comes from it.
Yes.
There is a result, and I think people are just like, huh, what? But it's manipulating the basics of the breath, which is just such a profound thing in our. It's something we do. A lot of people breathe shallow. Very
Correct,
few are consciously breathing. They're
correct.
just letting it be this background thing that happens so that they survive. But there's a
Mhm.
lot of ways to work with the breath so that it has the ability for us to have a little bit more power and control over our lives.
Absolutely.
The changing those pathways, does that increase like synapse, and it just helps the brain fire off and align itself?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
totally right. So, yeah, basically the way it works is our brain is a solving mechanism.
Right.
So when you do this thing and you assure your brain that there's no problem, then there's a lot of good things that happen. So our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, actually takes over, and then you get better healing and you have less chances of disease and all those things. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Good results. That's what we want. We want to be
Yeah.
able to do something that we're almost guaranteed to get a result out of. There's not a lot of mystery there. The use of drugs, which you've mentioned multiple times, a chemical reaction, isn't a guarantee and
Mhm.
isn't necessarily a lasting result. But something that's as basic as our breathing is like an everyday thing that we do, and to have a little bit of control over it can
Yeah.
manifest really amazing results in our life. I think on a lot
Yeah.
of different levels, but
Yeah.
the basics of curing insomnia with the ability to do a little bit of sitting quietly with yourself and
Yes.
concentrating on breath. If you can sleep better, have a great result out of that, almost. I mean, I'm almost guaranteed. I'd like to say guaranteed, but I think, how can I back that up? Everybody's got
Mhm.
to give that a try themselves, because that's the proof is in the doing. But
Yes.
the results are very proven for many. Let's say
Yes.
that the case studies are,
Yes.
are grand. You're building a lot of case studies for other people as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what part of India are you coming from?
Yeah, I'm coming from the southern part of India.
Okay. Is that
Yeah.
Chennai? Is that right? That area?
Yeah, so I'm like close to Chennai. So it's like I would say like 400 miles away from Chennai.
Oh, okay. Well, close-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe is mindfulness meditation or heart-centered meditation or chanting meditation, is that widespread in India?
Yeah, so every yeah, chanting meditation is something which, like you touched upon the Christianity angle. The
Hmm.
Hindus have this thing which is the chanting meditation of the gods and all those things.
Right.
The heartfulness meditation is something which I see is picking up, which with steam. And I believe the heartfulness meditation is also widespread and globally available. So
Yeah.
if you can search the heartfulness.org, you will definitely find it.
Hmm.
So the premise is very simple, which is just to concentrate the focus instead of the breath, it becomes the heart.
Yeah.
So that is the premise of heartfulness meditation. Uh, and yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, I'd say meditation's taking on all over the world as a form of becoming more um, centered for a person in the approach to their day, but also
Yes.
these issues that pop up in our life. All of a sudden I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm
Yeah.
having trouble with food.
Yeah.
I'm not able to focus as well. All of these things
Yeah.
are very easily curbed and cured by practice of meditation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very rewarding thing to do.
Yeah.
Prior to you doing the meditation, is this not something that you were doing at all? No form of meditation? You were just aware of it?
Yeah, I was just aware of these things, but I never did into practice. Like you said, it's the doing that matters.
Yeah.
If you are aware and if you don't do, it doesn't matter. So I was just aware of it, but I never did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Manohar, that's really great. I'm glad that you have found a solution to your
Yeah.
sleeping issues, and put a book out, because that's also another step, is to
Yeah.
formulate it and help other people. And I
Yes.
think that's great, and I hope that many are benefiting and do benefit from this book and your work and your efforts.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, thank you, Nick, and I want to express my gratitude for giving me this opportunity to share my story with your audience, and also, of course, I hope someone else will definitely get benefited with what we talk, and I also wish you good luck with your podcast.
Thank you, sir, and I'm very grateful to have you as well as a guest, and honored. And Report back to me. I'd love to hear how things are going in the future, and we'll
Sure,
touch base and go from there.
sure, yes.
Excellent, excellent. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day,
Thank
and we'll talk soon.
you. Sure.